Good morning. So today I thought we'd talk about load lines and in particular preparing for a load line survey. Although historically the MCA would carry out all the load line surveys, a lot of this now is done by classification societies like Lloyd's or DNV-GL, and particularly if your vessel is on ACS or EAS, which we have another video about, they will certainly be carried out by a class surveyor, and they will be issuing the certificates as well. Load lines is one of the easier surveys to prepare for because everything that is going to be inspected is quite clearly advertised ahead of time. As with pretty much any survey, you can expect the structure of that to follow a familiar practice. So load lines requires an annual survey. They have 5-year validity, and after that a renewal. And before the surveyor arrives, he's going to send you pre-arrival information by email, and that should include the checklist that they will use in order to carry out the survey. On arrival, they'll have an opening meeting, and if it is being done by the MCA, they will normally check your other statutory certificates. Their policy is to check those certificates every time in every survey. During the survey, they may then find stuff wrong, and they will either be observations, which is an idea for improvement but are not binding, or there'll be a non-conformity or a major non-conformity. Major non-conformities probably will result in a detention unless they can be resolved rapidly. Remember, your load line certificate is required if you are greater than 24 metres in length and you're on international voyages. And let's have a look at a load line certificate now then. So this is a load line certificate issued by Lloyd's Register, issued to a container vessel, doesn't matter which one, and this follows the form laid out in the convention, most recent 1988 amendments. And you can see here, originally the freeboard was assigned as a new ship, which is not surprising, and she was a type B ship, which means she was not a tanker. Different calculations for tankers because they are intrinsically more watertight because they don't have very many holes in them. The details on the freeboard and the marks, these marks are to be permanently marked upon the hull with welds and painted, and the quality of those marks and the paint is something that will be inspected during every survey. The actual distances here in millimetres from the deck line, and the position of the deck line is indicated as well. So you should be able to find all of these marks. Obviously the ones in black are the ones that are required to be marked, and because this is not a timber carrying ship, she is not issued with a timber or lumber freeboard. Then on the second page you will find, let's go back. This information also will probably be transcribed into your official logbook and will form the basis of your freeboard calculations on departure from every port. Interesting fact. So this certificate was valid 2014 and was valid until 2019. They're 5-year certificates in line with the harmonisation of certification. It was issued by Lloyd's Register, and at the time when I took a copy of this had 2 annual surveys, one in 2015, one in 2016, and they was endorsed accordingly by the Lloyd's Register surveyor. Now, useful though this certificate is, this is not the key information on what we'll be inspecting during a load line survey. That instead comes on the attached document, which is the conditions of assignment. So attached to or stored also with your certificates, the record of conditions of assignment. This is not reissued with every certificate. However, the information is unlikely to change short of a fairly significant dry docking period. This was the original one issued in 2014 as the ship was built in Korea or Japan, I can't remember. And you will find every single one of the conditions of assignment. Where do these conditions of assignment come from? Well, they come from the relevant chapter in the Conventions, Chapter 2, Conditions of Assignment of Freeboard. This document I'm looking at here is the Maritime Coast Guard Agency Surveyor's Guidance version of the Convention. So it's got the Convention information, and then it also has in it the information the MCA provide to their surveyors for what and how to comply. And simply, every one of these conditions of assignment must be provided in order for the ship to be issued with a load line certificate. When they're issued with that load line certificate, they have the conditions of assignment upon which it was based listed in this COA document which we have with us. And then at each survey, these conditions of assignment will be inspected to make sure that they are still in good order and in the condition that they were when the initial survey was carried out. Obviously, if the surveyor spots anything that he feels is deficient to the weathertight, watertight integrity of the vessel as he's making that survey, that would also be picked up. It is not an inspection of the condition of the hull. That would take place as part of, first of all, classification surveys, assuming the vessel is classed, and in the safety construction or PSSC inspections, normally during the inspection of the ship bottom at every dry docking period or in-water surveys every year. You can see this obviously is a container vessel. She does not have a lot of these things. She doesn't have hatch covers, portable covers, but there is space nonetheless here for everything. She does have big hatch covers for the container holds, and she has small hatches in the deck and the stuff. So they're going to be looking, these ones are hinged, so they're going to be looking at the quality of the hinges. They are toggled with butterfly nuts. They're going to be looking at the quality and any degradation on those. And as a brief aside, let's not forget that load lines, as with most statutory surveys, are not there to protect the owner or the charterer or the cargo. They are there to protect the seafarers that work upon these ships. They're there to make sure that we are not working on substandard ships that have a risk of sinking or a risk to our health, and that we can't be taken advantage of by owners or charterers who would want to overload ships. That's the fundamental basis of the load line marks, that their ships must have sufficient freeboard to be safe. So we have this long list of conditions of assignment, and really the best thing to do in advance of the survey is simply split these up between the relevant disciplines. Some of them are going to be more relevant for the chief mate and the boatswain, others more relevant for the chief engineer, and simply inspect that all of these conditions of assignment are in good order. And whilst you're going round, continue to inspect for anything else that a surveyor may find to be substandard. Some of the stuff that is particularly of note is any openings of the shell plating, so that's shell doors, particularly if they exist below the deck line, below the lowermost deck for continuous flooding. Those obviously a significant risk. Companionways, walkways around need to be properly protected around the forward end of the vessel, and scuppers and discharges are all in good order. That portholes have attached deadlights if required, and those deadlights are in good order and can be closed watertight. Fundamentally, the load lines requires any openings below the freeboard line to be watertight and openings above to be weathertight, and they're all listed here. And if you are not sure, or you're coming up for maybe a first survey, don't forget we can go back to the MCA guidance on here, and this will show us, first of all, the text of the convention, which is fundamentally the basis of the rules, and then show the MCA guidance. So it's not a particularly interesting chapter, but perhaps we can find one. Sometimes some of the how the locations of doors and stuff are located gets a little bit in detail. You just have to trust that the shipbuilder's done it correctly. But assuming that it's on the conditions of assignment list for your ship, then it's that positioning of it has already been checked. We're just checking to make sure that it remains in good order. So let's find something a little bit more here. I know there's good stuff towards the end. Hatch covers minimum loads. Air pipes. Air pipes often overlooked, mainly because they're quite hard to check ourselves. Often hidden away. Scuppers. Some pretty pictures. Garbage chutes, who has them these days? So, for example, side scuttles, windows and sides and skylights. Side scuttles, windows, along with glasses, deadlights and covers, shall be of approved design and substantial. Non-metallic frames not accepted. And then we come to where windows shall or shall not be positioned. And here we are, so starting there from 8. Side scuttles and windows in the second tier, that's defined above, shall be provided with hinged inside deadlights. So if you're not sure when you're inspecting, say, cabins, not that we would normally have cabins below the freeboard line, but in passenger ships we may well, we should see these are the windows, the portholes that must be capable of being closed and secured weather tight. Freeing ports must be remain free and clear. They should not be obstructed. And lots of stuff there about the heights of gutter bars. Protection of the crew. This one is often a big focus by surveyors when they come on board, and a particularly one is the security of guardrails and bulwarks in exposed areas. I'm thinking there on the forecastle, around the forward mooring deck. And because the focus of the survey, as always, is on the safety of the vessel and of the crew, these things like guardrails are very much something that will be examined. They're also something that it'd be easy to mess up, I think. You know, it wouldn't be unfeasible for maybe one of our stanchions to have become damaged and us to have repaired it, but then maybe we don't put them exactly 1.5 metres apart or less. So that's definitely something to check ahead of the inspection. And there's even little drawings there. Means of safe passage, and that's all about making sure that there's permanent walkways through to less accessed parts of the ship. Anyway, very good document, this MSIS 41, definitely available on the internet. And there's a few other resources I thought we'd have a look over as well. So the official MCA guidance on the statutory instruments for Loadline is MSN 1752. It's actually very similar to the surveyor's guidance, but doesn't have all of the additional information. But it is basically a copy of what's in the Loadline convention, so you can get that, and that's available for free. You don't need to buy the Loadline book in order to access it. And the MCA also have this page, the stability guidance and load lines. You can find that on just a Google search for MCA load lines, and that is a kind of a web-based M-Notice with information all about load lines, but also things like how to record freeboards, details on stability guidance for ro-ros, bulk carriers, cargo vessels, and well worth a read. Plenty of links there, and that also links through to the actual MSN, which I mentioned a moment ago. And finally, you can download off of the interweb the Loadline map, which details exactly where the summer, tropical, winter loading zones are critical when planning your passage. So I think that's about everything we will look at today. Thank you very much for your time. I hope you enjoyed. Feel free to leave comments about anything you'd like to learn more about in this way.